Dr. Ilara Chen stood motionless in the control room of the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, her eyes fixed on the oscillating pattern on the main screen. The silence was deafening, broken only by the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep of monitoring equipment. "It's still there," she whispered, more to herself than to her colleague, Dr. James Okonkwo, who stood beside her. 3 days, and it hasn't changed. James nodded, his face a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "And it's definitely not natural." Ilara shook her head. "No chance. The signal is too precise, too structured. It's artificial, no doubt about it." The discovery had sent shockwaves through the scientific community. A quantum signal, seemingly originating from the edge of the solar system, had appeared 3 days ago. Its complexity defied explanation, and its very existence challenged everything they thought they knew about quantum communication. "Have you informed the UN Space Council yet?" James asked, his voice low. Ilara sighed, running a hand through her short, dark hair. "I sent the preliminary report this morning. They're convening an emergency session as we speak." As if on cue, Ilara's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her eyes widened. "It's the council. They want us to present our findings in person." 12 hours later, Ilara and James found themselves in New York, standing before the United Nations Space Council. The chamber was packed, filled with representatives from every spacefaring nation on Earth. "Dr. Chen, Dr. Okonkwo," the council chair began, her voice echoing in the tense silence. "Please, tell us what you've discovered." Ilara stepped forward, her heart pounding. She took a deep breath and began. 3 days ago, our array detected a quantum signal of artificial origin. The signal appears to be emanating from just beyond Pluto's orbit. Its structure is unlike anything we've ever seen." She paused, letting the information sink in. The room remained silent, all eyes fixed on her. "We believe," she continued, "that this signal is an invitation." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The chair leaned forward. "An invitation? From whom?" James stepped up beside Ilara. "We don't know, Madam Chair, but the signal contains information, coordinates, to be precise, and instructions on how to build what we believe to be a quantum communication device." The murmur grew louder. Ilara raised her voice slightly to be heard. "If we're interpreting the signal correctly, we're being invited to join something. An alliance, perhaps, or a federation." The chamber erupted into chaos. Questions flew from all directions. How certain were they? Could this be a hoax? A trap? What were the risks of responding? The chair banged her gavel, calling for order. When the room quieted, she turned back to Ilara and James. "In your professional opinions, what should our next step be?" Ilara and James exchanged a glance. They had discussed this at length during their flight to New York. "Madam Chair," Ilara began, her voice steady despite her nerves, "we believe we should accept the invitation." The room exploded again, but Ilara pressed on. "This is unprecedented. We have confirmation of intelligent life beyond Earth, and they're reaching out to us. The potential benefits of this contact are immeasurable." "And the risks?" someone shouted from the back of the room. James answered this time. "The risks are significant, yes, but consider this. They've already demonstrated technology far beyond our current capabilities. If they meant us harm, they likely wouldn't need our permission." The debate raged for hours. Nations argued, alliances formed and dissolved, and through it all, Ilara and James stood firm in their recommendation. As the sun began to rise over New York, the council reached a decision. Earth would respond to the invitation. Ilara and James left the UN building, exhausted but exhilarated. As they watched the city come to life around them, Ilara turned to her colleague. "You realize," she said softly, "that everything changes from this moment on. For better or worse, we've just stepped onto a galactic stage." James nodded, his eyes on the brightening horizon. "Let's hope we're ready for what comes next." Little did they know, The quantum signal was just the beginning. Humanity was about to embark on an adventure that would challenge their understanding of the universe and their place in it. The journey to the stars had begun, and with it, a new chapter in human history. The quantum communicator hummed softly in the background as the Earth's delegation waited anxiously in the observation deck of the International Space Station. It had taken 6 months of frantic work to construct the device according to the alien specifications, and another month of careful communication to arrange this meeting. Dr. Ilara Chen paced nervously, her eyes darting between the communicator and the vast emptiness of space beyond the station's windows. Beside her, James Okonkwo sat still as a statue, his usually animated face locked in an expression of intense concentration. "Do you think they'll actually show up?" Ilara asked, breaking the tense silence. James opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, a flash of light outside the station caught their attention. Where moments ago there had been nothing but stars, a massive ship now hung in space, its sleek form defying human architectural norms. "I guess that answers your question," James whispered, awe evident in his voice. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its surface seemed to shimmer and shift, as if it wasn't quite solid. As they watched, a smaller craft detached from the main vessel and began to approach the station. The quantum communicator crackled to life. "Earth delegation, prepare for docking procedure." The next few hours passed in a blur. The alien craft docked with the station with impossible precision, and soon the airlock was cycling. Ilara, James, and the rest of the Earth delegation, a mix of scientists, diplomats, and military personnel, held their breath as the inner doors slowly opened. The beings that emerged were both familiar and utterly alien. They were roughly humanoid in shape, but their skin had a metallic sheen, and their eyes were large, multifaceted orbs that seemed to take in everything at once. There were 3 of them, each a different shade of iridescent color. The lead alien, a silvery blue being, stepped forward. When it spoke, the words seemed to form directly in Ilara's mind, bypassing her ears entirely. "Greetings, children of Earth. We are the Axiom, and we welcome you to the greater galactic community." The human delegation stood in stunned silence for a moment before the head diplomat, Ambassador Lai, stepped forward. We thank you for your invitation and your welcome. We have many questions." The Axiom being tilted its head in what might have been a nod. "And we have much to share. But first, we must discuss why we have sought you out." Over the next few hours, the Axiom laid out a situation that seemed more like science fiction than reality. The galaxy, they explained, was locked in a cold war between 2 major factions, the Axiom Alliance and the Nexus Dominion. Both sides commanded technologies and resources beyond human comprehension, yet they found themselves at a stalemate. "We have been observing your species for some time," the Axiom leader explained. "Your potential is unique. We believe you may be the key to finally bringing peace to the galaxy." Ambassador Li frowned. "I don't understand. How could we possibly influence a conflict on such a scale?" The Axiom beings exchanged glances before the leader continued. "Your species possesses a latent ability, one that we believe could change the very nature of space combat. With proper training and technology, humans can manipulate quantum fields in ways that even we cannot fully comprehend." Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. "Are you saying you want us to fight for you?" The Axiom leader's multifaceted eyes seemed to soften. "We hope it will not come to open warfare. But yes, we are asking for your help. In exchange, we offer knowledge, technology, and a place among the stars." As the implications of this offer sank in, tension filled the room. The human delegation huddled together, whispering furiously. Ilara caught fragments of the discussion. Concerns about being pawns in an alien war, excitement about advanced technology, fear of the unknown. Finally, Ambassador Lai turned back to the Axiom. "We appreciate your offer, but we need time to discuss this with our governments. This isn't a decision we can make lightly." The Axiom leader bowed slightly. We understand. But be aware, time is not on our side. The Nexus Dominion grows stronger, and if they discover your potential before you are ready, the consequences could be severe. As the meeting concluded and the Axiom prepared to depart, Ilara found herself standing next to James, both of them staring out at the alien ship. "What do you think?" she asked softly. James shook his head, his eyes never leaving the shimmering vessel. "I think we've just been thrown into the deep end of the galactic pool, Ilara. And I'm not sure we know how to swim." As the Axiom ship disappeared in another flash of light, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just taken its first step into a much larger, more dangerous universe than they had ever imagined. The journey that began with a mysterious quantum signal was about to become an adventure beyond their wildest dreams or their darkest nightmares. The underground laboratory hummed with activity as scientists from around the world worked feverishly to unravel the mystery of humanity's supposed quantum abilities. It had been 3 months since the meeting with the Axiom, and Earth's governments had cautiously agreed to explore the possibility of an alliance. Dr. Ilara Chen stood before a holographic display, her brow furrowed in concentration as she manipulated complex equations with graceful hand gestures. Behind her, James Okonkwo was busy calibrating a device that looked like a cross between an MRI machine and a particle accelerator. "Ilara," James called out, his voice tinged with excitement. "I think we're ready for another test." Ilara nodded, turning away from her equations. "All right, let's give it a shot. Who's our volunteer this time?" As if on cue, a young woman in a military uniform stepped forward. "Lieutenant Sarah Reeves, ma'am. I'm ready when you are." Ilara gave her a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, Lieutenant. This won't hurt a bit. Just relax and focus on the exercises we taught you." Sarah nodded and lay down on the bed of the strange machine. As James initiated the startup sequence, Ilara watched the monitors closely, her heart racing with anticipation. For weeks, they had been testing volunteers, searching for any sign of the quantum manipulation abilities the Axiom had spoken of. So far, the results had been frustratingly inconclusive. They had detected minor fluctuations in quantum fields around some subjects, but nothing that could be consciously controlled or harnessed. As the machine hummed to life, Sarah closed her eyes and began the meditation techniques they had developed based on the Axiom's cryptic instructions. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, the monitors exploded with activity. "James," Ilara shouted, her eyes wide as she stared at the readings. "Are you seeing this?" James was already furiously typing at his console. "It's incredible. The quantum field around her it's like nothing we've ever seen before." On the bed, Sarah's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly blue light. The air around her seemed to shimmer and distort, as if reality itself was bending to her will. "Lieutenant Reeves," Ilara said cautiously, "can you hear me? How do you feel?" Sarah's voice came out strangely echoed, as if she was speaking from multiple places at once. "I feel everything. Doctor, I can sense the quantum fabric of the universe. It's beautiful." For the next hour, they ran test after test, pushing the boundaries of Sarah's newfound abilities. She demonstrated the power to create localized quantum fields, to entangle particles across vast distances, and even to manipulate the flow of time in small, controlled areas. As they helped Sarah out of the machine, Ilara and James exchanged looks of awe and trepidation. They had done it. They had unlocked humanity's hidden potential. But at what cost? The news spread quickly through the facility and up the chain of command. Within days, Ilara and James found themselves presenting their findings to a joint session of the United Nations and military leaders from around the world. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ilara began, her voice steady despite her nerves, "what we've discovered goes beyond anything we could have imagined. The Axiom were right. Humans possess a unique ability to manipulate quantum fields. With proper training and technology, we could revolutionize not just warfare, but our entire understanding of physics. The room erupted in a mixture of excited murmurs and concerned whispers. One general leaned forward, his face grave. "Dr. Chen, what are the military applications of this ability?" Ilara hesitated, glancing at James before answering. "Theoretically, a trained quantum manipulator could disable enemy ships from a distance, create impenetrable shields, or even teleport short distances. The possibilities are, well, they're nearly endless." The implications hung heavy in the air. Humanity now possessed a power that could tip the balance of the galactic Cold War. But wielding such power came with enormous risks. As the meeting adjourned, Ilara and James found themselves alone in a quiet corridor. "We've opened Pandora's box, haven't we?" James said softly. Ilara nodded, her expression troubled. "The question is, are we ready for what comes next? We're about to step onto a galactic stage, armed with a power we barely understand." Before James could respond, they were interrupted by the arrival of a stern-looking military officer. "Dr. Chen, Dr. Okonkwo," he said briskly, "I've been instructed to inform you that Project Quantum Leap has been greenlit. You're to begin training a special task force immediately." As the officer walked away, Ilara and James shared a look of determination tinged with fear. They had unlocked humanity's hidden advantage, but the real challenge was just beginning. In the vast, unknown expanse of the galaxy, they were about to test the limits of their newfound power and potentially change the course of galactic history forever. The journey that had begun with a mysterious signal had now become a race against time. Humanity was stepping into a new era, armed with the power to shape reality itself. The question remained, would they use this power to bring peace to the galaxy, or would it lead them down a path of destruction? Only time would tell, and time, as they were learning, was a resource that could be bent to their will. The vast underground complex, dubbed Quantum Base Alpha, buzzed with activity. What had once been a network of Cold War-era bunkers was now the heart of humanity's preparation for its role in galactic affairs. Dr. Ilara Chen stood on a gantry overlooking the main training arena, watching as a group of recruits practiced their newly awakened abilities. Lieutenant Sarah Reeves, now the lead instructor, stood in the center of the arena. With a look of intense concentration, she raised her hands, and the air around her began to shimmer. Suddenly, a perfect sphere of distorted space appeared, hovering a few feet off the ground. "Focus," Sarah called out to the recruits. "Feel the quantum fabric. It's not about forcing it. It's about becoming one with the underlying structure of reality." Ilara couldn't help but smile as she saw the looks of wonder on the recruits' faces. In just 6 months, they had made incredible progress. What had once seemed like science fiction was now becoming routine. A hand on her shoulder broke her from her reverie. She turned to see James, his face a mixture of excitement and concern. "The latest report from the engineering team," he said, handing her a tablet. "The quantum drive is nearly ready for its first test flight." Ilara skimmed the report, her eyes widening. "Already? I thought we were still months away from a working prototype." James nodded. "The Axiom data has been invaluable. We're learning at an exponential rate." "But Ilara," he hesitated, lowering his voice. "There's something else. We've detected some unusual quantum fluctuations at the edge of the solar system. It could be nothing, or it could be the Nexus Dominion." Ilara finished, her expression grim. The threat of discovery by the Axiom's enemies had been a constant shadow over their work. Before they could discuss further, an alarm blared through the complex. Red lights flashed as a voice came over the intercom. "All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill." "Repeat, this is not a drill." Ilara and James rushed to the command center, arriving just as General Yamamoto, the head of Earth's new Space Defense Force, was briefing the senior staff. "We've detected multiple quantum signatures entering the solar system," the general announced, his voice tense. "Based on the Axiom intel, we believe these are Nexus Dominion scout ships." A hush fell over the room. This was the moment they had been preparing for, but dreading all the same. "What are our options?" Ilara asked, stepping forward. The general turned to her. "Dr. Chen, you've been training these recruits. Are they ready for actual combat?" Ilara exchanged a glance with James before answering. "They're as ready as they can be, given the time we've had. But General, we're talking about sending them against an enemy with vastly superior technology and experience." "We may not have a choice," James interjected. "If the Dominion discovers the full extent of our abilities, they could decide to eliminate us as a potential threat." The room erupted in debate, but it was cut short as new information flashed across the main screen. The Nexus ships were advancing deeper into the solar system, their trajectory aimed directly at Earth. General Yamamoto's face hardened. "We're out of time. Dr. Chen, Dr. Okonkwo, prep your team. We need to intercept those ships before they get too close." As Ilara and James rushed to gather their quantum manipulators, alarms blared throughout the complex. In the hangar bay, Earth's first quantum drive-equipped ships were being prepped for launch. The sleek vessels, a fusion of human engineering and Axiom technology, represented humanity's best hope for survival. Lieutenant Reeves met them at the hangar, her face a mask of determination. "The team's ready, doctors. We've been training for this moment." Ilara nodded, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. "Remember your training. Work together and trust in your abilities. The fate of Earth may well rest in your hands." As the recruits boarded the ships, Ilara felt a mix of pride and fear. These men and women, barely more than students a few months ago, were about to engage in humanity's first interstellar battle. James squeezed her shoulder. "We've done all we can to prepare them. Now we have to trust in their abilities and in the power we've unlocked." The hangar bay doors slid open, revealing the star-studded expanse of space. One by one, Earth's quantum ships lifted off, their drives humming with energy that defied conventional physics. As the last ship disappeared into the night sky, Ilara and James made their way to the command center. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of their mission, but potentially the future of humanity among the stars. On screens around the room, they watched as Earth's small fleet approached the incoming Nexus ships. The moment of truth had arrived. Would humanity's hidden advantage be enough to turn the tide, or had they entered a game far beyond their capabilities? As the distance closed between the two fleets, Ilara found herself holding her breath. The opening move in this cosmic chess game was about to be played, and the entire galaxy was the board. The tension in Earth's command center was palpable as they watched the quantum-drive ships approach the incoming Nexus Dominion fleet. Dr. Ilara Chen and Dr. James Okonkwo stood side by side, their eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the unfolding confrontation. "They're not reacting to our approach." Lieutenant Sarah Reeves' voice came through the comm system, tinged with concern. "It's as if they don't see us." General Yamamoto leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Could our quantum drives be masking our presence?" Before anyone could respond, the display erupted in a flurry of activity. The seemingly oblivious Nexus ships suddenly split apart, revealing a massive vessel that had been hidden in their midst. "It's a trap," Ilara shouted, her heart racing. "All ships, evasive maneuvers." But it was too late. The Nexus flagship unleashed a barrage of energy weapons, filling space with a web of destructive force. Two of Earth's ships vanished in brilliant explosions, their crews lost in an instant. "We're taking heavy fire." Sarah's voice crackled through the speakers. "Our shields can't withstand this level of attack." James grabbed the comm. "Sarah, remember your training. Use your quantum abilities to create localized field distortions. It might buy you some time." On the display, they watched as the remaining Earth ships began to move in erratic patterns, shimmering fields of distorted space appearing around them. Some of the Nexus energy beams seemed to bend around these distortions, missing their targets. "It's working," Ilara breathed, "but it won't hold for long. They need to counterattack." General Yamamoto nodded grimly. Lieutenant Reeves, you're authorized to use full quantum offensive capabilities. Take out that flagship. In space, the battle took on a surreal quality. The human ships, vastly outnumbered and outgunned, began to flicker in and out of normal spacetime. One moment, they were in the path of a Nexus beam. The next, they had quantum jumped to a new position. Sarah's voice came through again, strained but determined. We're going to try something. It might be our only shot. The remaining Earth ships began to move in a complex pattern, weaving between the Nexus vessels. As they moved, they left trails of quantum disturbance in their wake. In the command center, Ilara's eyes widened as she realized what they were doing. They're creating the quantum web, she whispered. If they can entangle the Nexus ships. The plan became clear as the Earth ships completed their pattern. The quantum disturbances suddenly snapped together, forming a vast, invisible network that encompassed the entire Nexus fleet. Now, Sarah's voice rang out. As one, the human quantum manipulators focused their power. The web of quantum entanglement tightened, and space itself seemed to twist and contort around the Nexus ships. On the holographic display, the enemy vessels began to break apart, their hulls unable to withstand the enormous stress of the warped spacetime around them. The massive flagship, the centerpiece of the ambush, crumpled like a tin can being crushed by an invisible hand. In a matter of minutes, it was over. The space around Pluto's orbit was filled with the drifting debris of what had been a superior alien fleet. A cheer went up in the command center, but Ilara and James remained tense. They knew this was only the beginning. All ships, report in, General Yamamoto ordered, his voice tight. One by one, the surviving Earth vessels checked in. They had lost nearly half their small fleet, but they had achieved the impossible. They had defeated a Nexus Dominion attack force. As the adrenaline of battle faded, the enormity of what had just occurred began to sink in. Humanity had not only survived its first interstellar battle, but had emerged victorious against a vastly superior foe. Ilara turned to James, her face a mixture of relief and worry. We did it, she said softly. But at what cost? And what happens now? James shook his head, his eyes still on the display showing their battered but triumphant fleet. I don't know, Ilara, but one thing's for certain. The galaxy is about to take notice of humanity in a big way. General Yamamoto approached them, his usual stoic demeanor showing cracks of both pride and concern. Dr. Chen, Dr. Okonkwo, I need your assessment. How soon can we expect a counterattack? And are we ready for it? Ilara and James exchanged glances. The questions hung heavy in the air, a reminder that their victory, however impressive, was just the opening move in a much larger game. As the command center buzzed with activity around them, reports being filed, damages assessed, strategies debated, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that they had crossed a point of no return. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage, but in doing so, had likely drawn the full attention of powers beyond their comprehension. The quantum gambit had paid off, but the true test was yet to come. As Earth celebrated its first interstellar victory, Ilara, James, and their team of quantum manipulators prepared for the challenges that lay ahead. The galaxy was watching, and humanity's next move would shape the course of cosmic history. The aftermath of humanity's victory over the Nexus Dominion scout fleet was short-lived. Within days, long-range sensors detected a massive buildup of quantum energy at the edge of the solar system. The Nexus Dominion was preparing a full-scale invasion. In the war room of Quantum Base Alpha, Dr. Ilara Chen pored over holographic projections of the incoming fleet. The sheer scale of the assault force was overwhelming. There must be thousands of ships, she murmured, her face pale in the blue light of the holograms. Dr. James Okonkwo nodded grimly, and each one likely carries technology far beyond what we faced in the first encounter. We won't be able to rely on the element of surprise this time. General Yamamoto stepped forward, his face a mask of determination. Then we'll have to rely on innovation. Doctors, what options do we have? Ilara and James exchanged glances. They had been working round the clock since the first battle, pushing the boundaries of their understanding of quantum manipulation. We've been developing a new technique, Ilara began hesitantly. It's theoretical and incredibly risky, but it might be our only chance. She gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show a complex web of quantum entanglements. We call it the quantum surge, James explained. The idea is to create a massive, coordinated quantum field that encompasses our entire fleet. If we can synchronize our manipulators, we might be able to alter the fundamental constants of physics within that field. General Yamamoto's eyes widened. Alter the constants of physics. Is that even possible? Ilara nodded. On a small scale, yes. We've done it in controlled experiments. But to do it on this scale, with this many variables, she trailed off, the risks evident in her voice. What's the worst that could happen? The general asked, though his tone suggested he wasn't sure he wanted to know. James answered, his voice grave. At best, it doesn't work, and we're back where we started. At worst, we could create a cascade effect that rips apart the fabric of space-time in our solar system. A heavy silence fell over the room. The stakes couldn't be higher. The fate of not just Earth, but potentially the entire solar system, hung in the balance. After a long moment, General Yamamoto straightened. We're out of options, and out of time. Prepare your teams, doctors. We go with the quantum surge. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Earth's quantum fleet, bolstered by newly completed ships, took up defensive positions around the planet. Each vessel was equipped with an enhanced quantum drive, capable of generating the massive field they would need. On the flagship, renamed Humanity's Hope, Lieutenant Sarah Reeves led the team of quantum manipulators through final preparations. The air crackled with nervous energy as they ran through the complex calculations one last time. In the command center, Ilara and James monitored the incoming Nexus fleet. The enemy ships moved with eerie synchronization, their formation a testament to their advanced technology and experience. They'll be in range in 10 minutes, James announced, his voice tense. Ilara nodded, taking a deep breath. Initiate the quantum surge protocol. Throughout the human fleet, quantum drives hummed to life. The space around Earth began to shimmer as thousands of localized quantum fields merged into one vast, encompassing bubble. Quantum field stable. Sarah's voice came through the comm. All manipulators report ready. Ilara closed her eyes for a moment, silently hoping they hadn't just made a terrible mistake. Begin the surge. What happened next defied description. Within the quantum field, reality itself seemed to bend and warp. Stars appeared to move, their light twisting in impossible ways. The laws of physics, once thought immutable, became fluid and malleable. The Nexus fleet, caught off guard by the sudden change, faltered. Their weapons, designed to work under normal space-time conditions, misfired or failed entirely. Some ships, unable to cope with the altered physics, began to break apart. It's working, James shouted, his eyes wide as he watched the display. Their fleet is in disarray. But the human ships were not unaffected. Alarms blared throughout the fleet as systems struggled to adapt to the new reality they had created. We can't maintain this for long. Sarah's strained voice came through. The field is becoming unstable. Ilara gripped the edge of the console, her knuckles white. Hold on, just a little longer, she urged. In space, the battle had become a surreal dance of quantum possibilities. Human ships phased in and out of normal spacetime, appearing in multiple places at once. Nexus vessels found themselves suddenly parsecs away from their original positions, or trapped in localized time loops. As the quantum surge reached its peak, a blinding flash of energy erupted from the center of the human fleet. For a moment, it seemed as if the fabric of the universe itself had been torn open. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The quantum field collapsed, and normal spacetime reasserted itself. In the stunned silence that followed, Ilara and James stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Where there had once been a Nexus armada, there was now only scattered debris. And amidst it all, improbably, impossibly, the human fleet remained. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had unleashed the full potential of their quantum abilities and turned back an overwhelming invasion force. But as the cheers of victory began to echo through the command center, Ilara couldn't shake a feeling of unease. They had just demonstrated power on a scale that would send shockwaves throughout the galaxy. What would be the consequences of their actions, and how would the rest of the galactic community react to this upstart species that had just rewritten the rules of space warfare? As the battered but triumphant human fleet regrouped, Ilara knew that the true test of humanity's place in the cosmos was only just beginning. In the days following humanity's unprecedented victory over the Nexus Dominion, Earth found itself at the center of galactic attention. The quantum surge had done more than just repel an invasion. It had fundamentally altered the balance of power in the cosmos. Dr. Ilara Chen stood before the United Nations General Assembly, her heart racing as she prepared to address not just the leaders of Earth, but representatives from a dozen alien civilizations. The chamber was packed, the air thick with tension and anticipation. "Distinguished delegates," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves, "we stand at a crossroads of cosmic history. Our actions in defending our world have demonstrated humanity's potential, but they have also brought us to the attention of forces beyond our comprehension." As she spoke, holographic displays showed footage from the battle. Human ships bending reality itself, the massive Nexus fleet reduced to scattered debris. The alien representatives watched with a mixture of awe and barely concealed fear. "We did not seek this conflict," Ilara continued, "but now that it has found us, we must decide what role we will play in the greater galactic community." In the front row, Dr. James Okonkwo nodded encouragingly. Beside him sat Lieutenant Sarah Reeves, still bearing the physical and mental scars of the intense battle. Ilara took a deep breath before delivering the crux of her speech. "We propose a new galactic accord, one that recognizes the rights of all sentient species to self-determination, that promotes peaceful coexistence and the sharing of knowledge. We have seen the destructive potential of unchecked power. Let us instead use our abilities to bridge the gaps between civilizations, to explore the mysteries of the universe together." As she spoke, she could see the impact of her words. Some of the alien delegates leaned forward, intrigued. Others shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsettled by the idea of a human-led initiative. "We extend an open hand to all peaceful civilizations," Ilara concluded. "Let us turn the page on conflict and write a new chapter of cooperation." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, human and alien alike. Debates raged. Alliances formed and dissolved in real time. It was clear that Ilara's proposal had struck a chord, challenging the existing galactic order. As the session adjourned, Ilara found herself surrounded by a mix of human officials and alien diplomats. Questions flew from all directions about Earth's quantum technology, about their plans for expansion, about the limits of their newfound power. Amidst the chaos, a tall, ethereal being approached. Ilara recognized it as the Axiom representative who had first contacted humanity. "You have surprised us, Dr. Chen," the Axiom said, its multifaceted eyes gleaming. "We had hoped you would tip the balance, but we never imagined you would seek to reshape the very nature of galactic politics." Ilara met its gaze steadily. "We've seen the cost of the old ways. We believe there's a better path forward." The Axiom tilted its head, a gesture Ilara had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. "It will not be easy. Many will resist change, especially from such a young species. We're prepared for the challenges ahead," Ilara replied. "We've learned that our greatest strength lies not in our quantum abilities, but in our capacity for innovation and adaptation." As the Axiom moved away, James and Sarah approached. "Well," James said with a wry smile, I think it's safe to say we've made an impression. Sarah nodded, her expression a mix of pride and concern. But what happens now? We've put ourselves at the center of galactic politics. There's no going back. Ilara looked out over the bustling chamber, where humans and aliens were engaged in animated discussions. Now, she said softly, we build, we learn, we grow. We've taken our first steps into a larger universe, and we have to be ready for whatever comes next. In the weeks and months that followed, Earth became a hub of intergalactic diplomacy. The proposed Galactic Accord, while controversial, gained traction among younger civilizations and those tired of the old conflicts. Quantum technology, under careful regulation, began to spread, ushering in an era of unprecedented exploration and scientific discovery. Human quantum manipulators, once trained for war, now led expeditions to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, unlocking secrets of space and time. But challenges remained. The Nexus Dominion, while weakened, was not defeated. Other powers watched Earth's rise with suspicion, wary of this upstart species with reality-bending abilities. Yet, as Ilara stood on the observation deck of humanity's hope, now the flagship of a growing international fleet, she felt a sense of cautious optimism. The view before her was no longer just stars and empty space, but a bustling lanes of interstellar traffic, a testament to the new era of cooperation they had helped usher in. We took a gambit, she murmured to herself, and it paid off. But the game is far from over. As if in response, a quantum alert chimed softly. A new anomaly had been detected in a distant sector of space, inviting exploration and promising new adventures. Ilara smiled. Humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning, and the universe, vast and full of wonders, awaited.